Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Good evening. You're listening to Friday Night Prime with me, Ahmed Suleiman, on Salam Radio 106.2 FM. A warm welcome, of course, to our Inspire FM listeners in Luton on 105.1. And I'm back on air after a few weeks off, actually. I'm feeling refreshed. I'm feeling excited about coming back to Friday Night Prime, I have to say. As always, we are Facebook Live, we're YouTube Live, online at salamradio.co.uk. And of course, if you haven't already, do download our iPhone and Android apps. We're always on air for you 24/7, 365, uniting all communities. As usual, you can get involved in today's show via WhatsApp. Our number is 07745 278 978, or you can give us a call on 01733 602 133, or you can indeed send us a Facebook Live message if you're watching or listening on Facebook. Now, this week saw the relaunch of a new mental health service called Ihsan, and they're providing specialised psychological therapies which are compatible with Islamic principles. Very intriguing and a much needed service, and we'll be speaking with Professor RASJID Skinner, who's a consultant clinical psychologist at Ihsan at 9:30. It's not that long, the show. So please do stay tuned for that, coming up at 9:30. But before that, joining us, inshallah, in a few minutes, we're trying to get him on the phone at the moment, we're going to have MUSLIM BELAL. For those that don't know, MUSLIM BELAL is an English actor, he's a screenwriter, he's a spoken word performance poet. He spent his youth involved in gang culture and converted to Islam in 2002. And he's since delivered numerous inspiring workshops and thought-provoking talks at youth clubs, universities and various events. And this is his brilliant new release. This is just fantastic. This is called The Corner.
I got my gun on me, I got this money in my pocket out there in these streets. I'm only 17 and there ain't nothing that these dour boys can say to me. I'm filled with rage and pain, no love remains inside of me. I spent so many days out there in the rain, it troubled me. So today I got my gun on me, I got this money in my pocket out here in these streets. I'm only 17 and there ain't nothing that these dour boys can say to me.
Blame society for not giving you
I'm filled with rage and pain, no love remains inside of me.
Blame your father for not being there.
I spent so many days out there in the rain, it troubled me.
Blame the gun in your hand for making you a target.
So today I got my gun on me,
for making you more likely to be picked on. Blame the dead boy, blame your mother, blame society, blame your father, blame the gun, blame anyone but yourself for not being strong enough to put down the gun.
Standing on a corner, trying to make ends meet, on the edge of the fire, love is still these fingers on me. See, I could really break down, thinking about my past. Now, holding on to this rope tight, I pray this grip's gonna last. Standing on a corner, trying to make ends meet, on the edge of the fire, love is all these fingers on me. See, I could really break down, thinking about my past. Now, holding on to this rope tight, I pray this grip's gonna last. Focus on the work, they focus on the fame. I try and avoid the cameras, they're trying to get in frame. My life ain't like this, we are not the same. I'm trying to build an empire, they're trying to build the name. You see that life on the road, that helped me when I grow. Turn my mess into a message, my story's been told. I'm chilling out with bro, look how far we come. We're rolling with our kids now, we used to roll with guns. Look what God done. So I don't complain about my dealt hands. Happy with my destiny, content whatever God plans. Damn homie, you used to be the man. Whatever fam, I'm still the man. We just got different plans, focusing on different lands. So you're arguing with a different man. I won't reply, they won't understand. Samaya in my right hand, and you be in my left. Islam in my chest, on my way to death. Standing on a corner, trying to make ends meet. On the edge of the fire, love bestowed these favors on me. See, I could really break down, thinking about my past. Now, holding on to this rope tight, I pray this grip's gonna last. Standing on a corner, trying to make ends meet. On the edge of the fire, love is so these favors on me. See, I could really break down, thinking about my past. Now, holding on to this rope tight, I pray this grip's gonna last. Standing on a corner.
Young boy from the rubble, didn't care about consequences, I was getting into trouble. Ain't no one could stop me or get in between my hustle. On me I was praying, she was crying many puddles. Soaking in the rain, posted on the corner, surrounded by my peoples, how I'm feeling like a loner. You couldn't see my pain, kept it masked with a smirk, but inside I was hurt, cause we was coming from the dirt. Where I'm from, gunshots are lullabies, bullets flying, mothers crying. Don't wanna say another bye, homies dying. We done seen a lot of close homies go. Now I miss a lot, face to the flow. Praying for their souls, praying for their souls. I'm praying for their souls, praying for their souls. There always been another way. Focus less on these materials and more so on your inner state. There always been another way. No more looking at these substances, a remedy to numb the pain. Pray.
Standing on a corner, trying to make ends meet. On the edge of the fire, love is so these favors on me. See, I could really break down, thinking about my past. Now, holding on to this rope tight, I pray this grip's gonna last. Standing on a corner, trying to make ends meet. On the edge of the fire, love bestowed these favors on me. See, I could really break down, thinking about my past. Now, holding on to this rope tight, pray this grip's gonna last. Standing on the corner.
MashaAllah, that's a very deep, hard-hitting track from Muslim Belal there. That's a newly released track, about a month old, called The Corner, and it's just so sadly relevant. Muslim Belal joins us now, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, brother, and welcome to Friday Night Prime.
Wa alaikum salam, rahmatullah, my brother.
How are you, bro? You well?
Yeah, good. Alhamdulillah, all is well, man. All is well.
That's really good, bro. Listen, first and foremost, thank you so much for joining us on Friday Night Prime here on Salam Radio this evening. It's great to have you on, and I can't wait to sort of get into a conversation with you. And first of all, congratulations on the track we've just heard. Yeah. That's a new release. What's the reaction and feedback been to this piece?
Yeah, it's been powerful, you know. It's been good. The reaction's been strong. And it's surprising because the track came from nothing.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah, it came from nothing. I went to Seattle about a month ago because I had to perform at an event out there.
Right.
And when I got there, the brother who picked me up from the airport and he like dropped me to my hotel, he was a young brother.
Yeah.
And he's like only like 22 years old or something. And he was telling me about, I always ask when I visit a city, what's the situation of the Muslims here?
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the young Muslims because that's more my audience. I like to know about the teenagers, the young, the people, Muslims in the early 20s. And he was just like, bro, man, there's a lot of drama out here, a lot of like killings. Like he said the other day, one of the brothers got shot. Wow. And this is happening and that is happening. So I was like, wow. And when I went to the event, I spoke about these type of things because of the life I'm coming from, the streets to Islam.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about, look, it seems like a lot of Muslims, young Somali, Asian, young Arabs, are running towards a life that I'm running away from. And I never understood that. So when I had done the talk, it was like very hard hitting, and the brother said, I'd love to go to the studio with you. We got a studio in Seattle.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, what are we going to record? Like, we can go studio, but what are we going to record? He said he's got 2 hours booked. So we went to the studio at about 1 o'clock in the morning after the event.
Yeah.
And then I was just thinking, do you know what? Let me just make something up. And because of the circumstances he was telling me about youngsters killing each other, I just thought of the, ooh, I got my gun on me, I got this money in my pocket out there in the streets. I was putting myself in the mind of that young boy.
Wow.
I'm only 17 and there ain't nothing that these dawah boys can say to me, because I'm thinking they're very hard of hearing. They don't listen to, like, they don't want to hear the dawah that the sheikhs are giving them. So then I've done the reaction, like, of like, look, I was on the corner trying to make ends meet, on the edge of the fire, but then Allah bestowed his favors on me. So that's what I was saying in the chorus. And then I was like, I could break down if I thought about my past now. Do you like? Because it was so crazy. And then in the verse, I just talk about the current state of people. Like, I focus on the work. There's youngsters now focusing on fame.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like with social media, everyone just wants to be famous.
That's right.
Known, and it's all about image and reputation. So it's like, that's where the verse comes from and all that. And yeah, so
it's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing that
track.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. And it's amazing hearing you tell us that, you know, how quickly you came up with this track. I mean, literally. So you're saying within, like, the space of a few hours?
2 hours. Within 2 hours, the track was done. I made the backing, I done the chorus, and then I done my verse, and then the brother come in, it's Sam, he's from Seattle, and he done his verse. Yeah. And then I just said, you know what, call all the brothers. I'm leaving in 2 days. Let's get all the brothers from the local brothers, all the youngsters, the ones that are on Dean, the ones that are not practicing. Yeah. They're all welcome, and let's shoot a video to it tomorrow.
Wow.
He was like, for real? And I said, yeah, because I'm a director, so I know how to direct a video. So I got a guy with a camera. It's not the greatest camera, but I said, look, just follow my direction and we'll make something work.
Oh, it's a great video, mashallah. It's great. I checked
out the video the next day, literally.
It's a really good video. Very powerful, hard hitting. I mean, it does justice to the lyrics of that piece. Yeah. Amazing how quick you work. Is that normally your pace of work, or is this like a one-off?
Yeah, it is actually. I'm very like, my first album, Pray Hard, with like a Soldier and Streets to Islam. I done that album in 2 days.
Wow.
The whole album.
Wow.
So I'm very like, I'm not one of those artists that's always in the studio, always writing lyrics. I've never wrote a lyric in my life. I just go in there and freestyle.
That is amazing.
Come about, yeah.
So the last album was it My Sumaya? Was 2015, right? Was that the last album?
Well, no, I actually done an album last year, Ramadan.
Oh, okay.
Called Hearts Are More Attractive Than Faces.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. And is there another album on the way? Are you working on anything currently?
Not really. I'm working on a movie at the moment.
Now, that was another question I had for you, which is, you've kind of preempted that, which is great, because you've done a lot of acting, right? You've been on TV, stage, film, you know, you've done The Bill and Casualty and Silent Witness, plus, you know, I think you had a part in Another Hood as well, which I love that movie, by the way. It's amazing. But but you've done, you know, a lot of screen work. So tell us about this movie. What can you say about it?
So my history in film was always like mainstream, like TV, like mainstream TV, mainstream film, and because of my passion for Islam and my conversion, I slowed down, because I was doing it before I was a Muslim. Okay. So I slowed down because a lot of the roles didn't sit well in my heart, and I slowed down and I started focusing more on the poetry. But my thing is, I really try and reach out to young people, the ones that are struggling with religion. And I put myself in their shoes, and I know that now we're competing with, you got to compete with the current market and climate, and now everything's visual. Everyone's online on YouTube watching videos and stuff. So I just said, look, I got to use my talent and my skill and create a film, because a lot of Muslims have tried to make films and other people have tried to make films, but they're not necessarily the films that the youngsters are going to want to watch, and they're not created as professional as the mainstream media. Right. So I just thought, you know what, I've got the contacts in the mainstream industry to make a very good film, so why don't I make one about a young boy who's struggling, he's on the streets, he's into the money, the fast life, and he converts to Islam. And it will be good dawah as well, because as that young boy, that character is asking questions and researching this religion, the audience that's watching, if it's non-Muslims, whatever, they'll also be getting the answers to those questions.
That's amazing. So the film is designed to obviously act in a dawah format as well, right? So,
but it's going to be very subtle, not too much.
No.
Preachy, nice and subtle. So it's mainstream. So we can sell it to Netflix. It could go to mainstream cinemas. Because we want to reach a wide audience.
And brother, is it? It sounds like this film. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but is it loosely based on your life? This story of this young boy.
It is. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't. But what I'm doing is I'm using other scenarios that didn't take place in my life. I'm including them just for film purposes.
Okay.
Because certain things that are needed, like I didn't struggle with my family when I converted, but it might be better to show a boy that struggles with his family when he converts.
Right.
So there's a few. It's based on my life's journey, but there's fictional moments in there well, not fictional because they do happen, but stuff that didn't happen with me.
I understand. So it's dramatized, right?
It's dramatized. Yeah.
So it's well documented that you've mentioned it. You converted to Islam. I believe it was 2002. You were 19 at the time.
Yeah, I was 19. Yeah.
So can you give us, because not everyone's gonna know the story. I know a lot of our listeners will, but not everyone will know the overview of your story towards Islam from the life you were living previously, which you've kind of hinted at.
Yeah.
So
I feel like to summarize it, I was a young boy, lost, broken home, single parent, poverty driven, so like not much money, not much wealth, and I feel like my early ambitions in life was just to make money, like most young people coming from those backgrounds. And when you don't believe in a life after this life, you think this life is all you have. So I was trying to get rich or die trying, and 50 Cent was like, I just want to make the most of my life while I've still got it. And in the fast lane, doing anything I can to get money and to try and be happy and chasing success, I started to indulge in crime, and then movies came, and anything that I could get my hands on that made money, I was doing it.
Yeah.
And then by 16, 17, I would be like what we would say quite successful for a young boy, because I got my first film at 15.
Wow.
The criminal activity I was doing for money was going well. Everything was going well. So I think the success made me realize that it's not actually success, and I felt an emptiness inside, and that emptiness led me to start questioning what's the real purpose of life then, because if I've got all this money now and I've got this fame and I've got this success, why am I not happy? Why am I not content? Why is there still an emptiness? So I started searching in other areas for answers, and that's when I started questioning God and the purpose of life, and which led me to Islam, because it's hard when you're a blank canvas to believe any religion is true. You always think it's man-made,
right?
And you think, why? And a lot of people who believe in religion, it's not because they've researched it, it's because their parents passed it on to them, so they just automatically believe. But when you're a blank canvas and no parents is passing anything on to you, you don't believe in anything automatically. Everything sounds like fairy tales and just stories. How do you know that's true? How do you know that's true?
Right.
So for me, with Islam, there was no fairy tales. It was just, there is a God, a creator above this heaven that created the heavens and the earth, and we should worship him alone and pray to him and thank him alone. And that made sense for me, because just looking at the earth and the human body alone was evidence that there must be some sort of God. So if this is my purpose, to worship that God because we come from him and after we die we're going to return to him, then that is not a hard thing to believe. That was very easy for me to accept, whereas every other religion, I feel like, elevated the status of something other than God. Like, you have to worship this man, or you have to pray to this, or you have to, and you might sit back and question, how do I know that's true? What if I spend my whole life worshipping this guy and then I found out I wasn't meant to? What if I spend my whole life praying to this and I wasn't meant to? But praying to a God that I know created the heavens and the earth and me, I don't mind doing that. And Islam was the only religion that was like, worship God alone. There's one God and we should worship God alone, with no associated, no partners. So
wow, that's a powerful message. It's a very powerful message. So let me ask you this: when you were kind of questioning things and trying to fill that gap that you felt was missing, you explored other faiths as well as Islam, right? So you okay, but this is the one that obviously
mainly Christianity. Growing up in the West, in the UK, the Church of England, I attended a lot. Okay, so mainly Christianity.
And were you raised as a Christian in the house, or
yeah? Okay. I used to go to church a lot.
Okay, that's interesting. That's very interesting. Well, thank you for that overview, because I know a lot of our listeners may not have known that that side of your life, but that is extremely. Now, understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, I did a bit of research, but you can't always guarantee whether research is correct or not. But you spent a year or so in Egypt to study Islam. Is that right?
Yes. In Egypt, from 2004, I went there.
Okay.
And I spent some time in Kuwait as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Kuwait. Yeah, I was in Kuwait 2010. So yeah, I've spent some time abroad. I think it's important.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely it is. But how did you find that experience? Let's start with Egypt. So when you first went out there, what was the objective other than to study Islam? Did you just feel you'd be closer to Islam by studying in Egypt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think going to Egypt was like, for me was like, it was a big eye-opener. It was the first time I ever travelled abroad.
Oh, wow.
So that alone was a big thing for me, like just different climate, a different system together. And hearing the adhan called from the mosque everywhere you went, like, it's time to pray, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And then you see people closing their shops and all walking to the mosque to pray.
That's amazing.
That for me was like, wow.
Yeah.
This is like the whole country knows their purpose in life, is all praying to God. That was beautiful for me. So that was something that was nice. And then learning the Arabic language so that I could understand the Quran and I could recite the Quran.
MashaAllah.
That was nice for me as well. However, I feel like I was a little bit let down because I felt like going there, it was a Muslim country. Like, everyone's going to be Muslim and it's just going to be, like, perfect. It wasn't perfect. It's like when you get there, you see that a taxi driver would just say to you, Wallahi, it will cost £7 to go from here to there. But you know you've been doing it every day and it costs £2. And you say, so you're shocked. You're like, but you just said Wallahi. And you realise it doesn't mean as much to them.
No.
They were right. So there were some letdowns. And it's like I understood one of the big quotes that I heard once where someone said, if I found the Muslims before I found Islam, I may never converted to this religion.
Smart.
So,
that's amazing.
And there was another one where they said, I went like to the Islamic countries and I found Muslims, but I found no Islam. But then when I was in the West, I found Islam, but I didn't find many Muslims.
Yeah, that's a common thing that we hear. Actually, it's bizarre and it's sad. But it's a sad fact, unfortunately, that that's how it is.
Yeah.
Brother, let me ask you this. In terms of going back to the tracks that you've done previously, this one we've just heard now, The Corner, very, very hard hitting. Was it always your plan to deliver strong, sometimes controversial messages that can potentially positively impact lives of the youth? Was that kind of your main objective of putting work out there?
Yeah, because for me, I never had, like a lot of nasheed artists had a route, like in a sense where they had a vision.
Yeah.
So they decided one day, I want to be a nasheed artist. A lot of the nasheed artists that are established, I remember like 5-6 years ago, they used to message me saying, how do I get into it? I want to become a nasheed artist. So a lot of people had a dream about becoming a poet, an Islamic poet or a nasheed artist.
Yeah.
And they have a strategy, like I want to make some videos, I want to make this. For me, it was I was just a known boy in my area for my life before Islam and the way I converted to Islam. And I was known amongst the youngsters. So the imam in my local masjid came to me and said, Bilal, why don't you do some poetry, some rhyming about your journey to Islam? And I actually said no at first. I declined. I said, no, I don't want to do that. I'm too shy. I don't want to get on the minbar in the masjid and start talking. That's not for me. That's for the sheikhs and the imams.
Right.
But he said, no, but you're not doing a talk. You're just doing a rhyme. To be a rapper, you can put your rap style into more of a poetic style and do something to inspire these youngsters, because look at these kids, they need something.
They do.
So when he asked me, I said, okay, I'll do it. And I done a freestyle that day, and I thought it was going to be the first and last time I done it. But what happened was it was a domino effect. Someone in the audience heard and said, listen, can you come and do that at my university? I told them it's not something I do.
Right.
But then they twisted my arm. I went to the university. Then again, at that university, someone in the to me and said, bro, what you just done, can you come to my university and do it?
Wow.
So every time I done it, I thought it was going to be the last time, until before I knew it, I was getting calls from Malaysia. Can you please come to Malaysia and do it? Can you please come to Australia and do it? Can you please come to South Africa? And I was thinking, how is everyone even getting my number? How is everyone getting hold of me? I don't have a email. I don't have a, not email. I don't have a website. My social media, I still call it my government name, my birth name, Ashley Chin. I haven't think it's Muslim Belal. So it was shocking for me. And then I realized that someone said, when you give up something for the sake of Allah, He replaces it with something better. So then I felt like maybe this is a guidance from Allah. Allah's giving me this, like, because I'm not only doing it, I'm getting paid to do it as well. So maybe it's a replacement that Allah's given me for giving up some of the things that I was doing before I was a Muslim.
That sounds like it. But brother, listen. Sadly, we are out of time. But it's inspirational what you do, and I hope you keep doing it. I hope you still get in front of as much youth as you can, because you have a very powerful, inspirational message. But sadly, that's all we've got time for. I want to thank you for joining us. Inshallah, look, if you ever find yourself, in the East Midlands, i.e. Peterborough, it'd be great to have you in the studio and do this in more detail, bro. Inshallah. But Jazakallah khair for joining us, and please keep spreading the word. It's amazing, mashallah.
It's a pleasure. Take care, my brother.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
That was the wonderful Muslim Belal. Stay with us. We've got more of Friday Night Prime in a few minutes after the short ad break, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Have you visited Amar Food Store yet? Now open at Lincoln Road Triangle, 613B Lincoln Road, Peterborough. Pay us a visit and take advantage of our special offers and great range of products on groceries, vegetables, fruits and halal meat. All your favourite brands under one roof. We take payment by card, have free customer parking and offer a free local delivery service. Also available, PayZone for bill payments and money transfer services to Pakistan. Amar Food Store and Halal Meat. Now open at Lincoln Road Triangle. Call us on 01733 68 73 74. High in quality, low in prices. Third world and developing countries are home to some of the most vulnerable children on the planet. Malnutrition, severe lack of medical aid and access to clean water are just some of the horrific challenges faced by orphans across Africa and Asia. Children of Adam, a Peterborough charity, need your help to bring aid to these orphans for just £25 a month. To sponsor an orphan or assist with other projects, please call 0300 321 0032 or visit www.childrenofadam.net.
Need a great place to chill out? Look no further than The Lounge for quality food and drinks at a great price. Try our varied menu: pasta, seafood, burgers, grills, salad, soup, rice and sides. Also hot and cold drinks, milkshakes and mocktails. Leave room for our exquisite desserts. The Lounge, 417 Lincoln Road, Peterborough. Call 01733 709 306 to order for delivery. The Lounge, friendly service with a great atmosphere.
इस्लाम रेडियो और पेनी अपील ने एक शाम का बंदोबस्त किया है। कवालियों की शाम उस्ताद नुसरत फतेह अली खान के नाम, जहां चांद अली खान कवाल और पार्टी बाकायदा हमें अच्छी सी कवालियाँ सुनाएंगे और उनके अलावा मुशायरा और गज़लें भी होंगी। और जो भी पैसा होगा वो पाकिस्तान में पानी के कुएं लगवाने का बंदोबस्त किया जाएगा। और ये चैरिटी का प्रोग्राम है। ये संडे एतवार 29 अप्रैल को होगा ग्लैडस्टोन पार्क कम्युनिटी सेंटर में। दरवाजे खुलेंगे 6 बजे। टिकटों के लिए आप कासिम से रब्ता करें, सिर्फ £10 टिकट है। कासिम का टेलीफोन नंबर है 077 22 55 884। 29 अप्रैल 6 बजे उस्ताद नुसरत फतेह अली के नाम एक शाम, जहां चांद अली खान कवाल एंड पार्टी आ रहे हैं। इसमें ज़रूर तशरीफ़ लाएं और चैरिटी को सपोर्ट करें। शुक्रिया।
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. On the authority of Abu al-Abbas Sahl ibn Sa'd al-Sa'idi, may Allah be pleased with him, who said, a man came to the Prophet, may the blessings and peace of Allah be upon him, and said, O Messenger of Allah, direct me to an act which, if I do it, will cause Allah to love me and people to love me. He said, renounce the world, and Allah will love you, and renounce what people possess, and people will love you. A good hadith related by Ibn Majah and others with good chains of authorities.
In the name of God, the Supremely Merciful, the Most Kind.
This is Salam Radio, Peterborough's Muslim community radio. Broadcasting on 106.2 FM and online.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to Friday Night Prime. I'm your host, as usual, Ahmed Suleiman, here on Salam Radio 106.2 FM and, of course, Inspire FM 105.1 in Luton. As usual, you can get involved with today's show. You can send us a WhatsApp, 07745278978, or you can give us a call on the studio, 01733 602 133. Now, just before the break, we were chatting with the amazingly inspirational Muslim Belal, also known as Ashley Chin, with an amazing message to give to our youth, and he's doing some amazing work. So I hope you all enjoyed that. If you have any comments about the interview or about his work, please do send them through. Now, as I told you before at the start of the show, we're going to be joined in a few minutes by Professor RASJID Skinner, who's a consultant clinical psychologist at an organisation called IHSAN. The website is ihsan.org.uk. So he's a consultant clinical psychologist and Jungian psychotherapist with over 40 years' experience of dealing with a variety of psychological problems. He's a chartered psychologist and associate fellow of the British Psychological Society, and he's worked with others over many years developing the clinical application of an Islamic understanding of the self. Very intriguing. And he's a visiting professor of clinical psychology at the University of Karachi, and he teaches at the Cambridge Muslim College, not so far from us, and is also a visiting lecturer on the clinical psychology course at the University of Sheffield. He's also presented at numerous conferences nationally and internationally on Islamic psychology and has written a number of publications. Without any further ado, Assalamu alaikum, Professor RASJID. Welcome to the show.
Wa alaikum assalam.
How are you this evening?
Very well, thank you. And how are you?
Alhamdulillah, very well, thank you. Very well indeed. And thank you, first of all, for joining us for this show. As you know, I was made aware of IHSAN earlier this week. I understand there was a relaunch this week in Bradford, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
Yeah, and I was very intrigued by what you're doing. And clearly there's a much needed, sadly, a much needed service for the Muslim community. But I think first and foremost, if you could just tell us about the fact that, you know, the relaunch was this week, how did that go, and what is IHSAN, and how did it all begin?
Well, the launch, I think, was very successful. We've had a lot of barakat there, and people enjoyed it, and the food was good. So we were very happy with it.
That's good. As long as the food's good, that's also a major point, isn't it?
Because most people come for the food, I think.
They do. But IHSAN, if you could just give us an overview of what the service is and how it originated, how was it born?
Well, this really goes back to a revival of Islamic psychology, because we have a very rich tradition of psychology in Islam, going back to probably Al-Kindi in the 8th, 9th century, Al-Balkhi, and particularly Al-Ghazali, but also others. And there was a sort of awareness that Western psychology was often quite corrupting of Islamic thought about the nature of the human being. And somebody called Malik Bedri published a book in 1979 making people aware of that. And from the 80s, us in the UK began to sort of work on the models, particularly of Al-Ghazali, on how this gave an understanding of the self and how you would apply this in both defining what is a mental problem and how you treat it.
Right.
So, a good many years of work involving quite a few people, and the Islamic College, the Cambridge Muslim College being quite central to that. And I suppose about 4 years ago, we got together a group in Bradford, clinical psychologists, psychotherapists, people that are trained in fiqh, because there's always a fiqh element to psychological problems. And we decided to put it into practice. And because I'm pretty certain that the local National Health Service wouldn't support us at all.
Right.
And it's been very difficult to get any Muslim charities to support us. But one always seems to be undercutting us. We decided just to do it ourselves and put in our time as sadaqah. And it's open to everybody, because we're saying this isn't a psychology for Muslims, this is a universal approach to psychology. But in Bradford, I suppose in particular, all our clients so far be Muslim.
Right. Interesting. Okay. And I'm assuming that the service was also born out of a noticeable demand that was being seen for such a service like this. I mean, you must have all realised that there was a gap that needed to be filled by this.
A big gap, partly because the services provided generally, but also in particular by the National Health in Bradford, aren't really, well, often aren't culturally appropriate to Muslims.
True.
And I would say one of the differences between an Islamic approach to psychology and the more traditional Western one, there are exceptions, is that we take account of the spiritual part of the person.
Okay.
Using Al-Ghazali's term, the qalb, of the inner heart.
Yeah.
And you can't really make a diagnosis about what's going wrong in the person unless you consider that. And when you come to treatment, again, you've got to consider what is best for the person, what is best for the heart, and how you bring people back into their own guidance about how to be. I mean, through true dreams being one example.
Right.
You're most unlikely to get that in a NHS practice.
Yeah.
And of course, you're also considering things like either the black magic or the jinn involved, that sort of thing. You need to bear that in mind in making a diagnosis and the treatment. And again, generally speaking, you wouldn't get that in mainstream services. And then there's marital problems, which are increasing, I think, at a rapid rate.
Yeah, sadly.
And yes, and I don't think there's any service. Well, I suppose there are services. There doesn't seem to be one in Bradford that really meets the needs for Muslims. That's going to be Sharia compliant in the advice it gives, but also, in a sensitive way that's alive to the variations in fiqh and even in different madhabs. To find the fit that's going to suit the problem that's in front of you.
Now, that's interesting. So I have a question that I was thinking about just prior to the show. So the service is clearly rooted in Islamic principles, but does that fundamentally change the approach from the very outset with the patient? Or is it something that would you use traditional techniques, say, that the NHS would use, and then work the Islamic way into the potential solution?
But of course, the hadith, isn't there? All knowledge is the property of all good knowledge is the property of the believer. So, there's absolutely no reason why you can't use techniques from wherever. So it's more a matter of how you diagnose the problem.
Right.
So it's how you start off. And the other thing is, when it comes to treatment, I think everybody agrees, and there's been 3 studies on this so far that I know of, on how Muslim psychologists and psychotherapists practice, and that is that it's the state of the therapist which is probably the most important variable. So techniques useful, particularly in particular symptoms and particular problems, but more than anything else, it's that the therapists themselves is in a good state of heart, because that has an effect on the client in front of you.
That's interesting. Very interesting. Okay. And, mental health, as we know, sadly, is a very taboo and often disregarded topic in certainly in the Muslim community, sadly. But do you find it, and I imagine the answer is yes, but do you find it frustrating that people do not tend to want to reach out for help for whatever reason that may be? Or are you finding that, because of a service like this, that people are becoming aware of it, as, particularly in Bradford, and are now starting to reach out? I mean, what is the current state of play?
Well, our problem is the waiting list. We have no problem at all attracting clients, because it's a free service. We ask people to make a donation to cover our overheads.
Right.
And one of our fears about relaunching was that inevitably we're going to reach a wider audience, we're going to be better known.
Yeah.
And then how do we cope with what we expect would be an influx of more people wanting our services? The ideal would be to find a charity that would at least give us a sort of sadaqah stream to pay the fees of those people that couldn't afford it. In other words, we would have to probably go to a low fee paying basis, so we can actually employ people to work more hours. So
sorry.
It isn't a case, I think, of I mean, there may be a stigma. There's probably a stigma around certain types of mental illness everywhere, but people are certainly aware that they have problems, but want to find a service that is going to be sensitive to their religious belief and religious experiences, and that's what Exam provides.
No, indeed. And just going back to the point you mentioned about the service is free and there'll be I would imagine, a very, correct me if I'm wrong, in terms of the donation. I mean, is it means tested, or is it just a kind of flat?
No, we just say you pay what you can. Some people...
Oh, I see.
Some of them really are quite poor students and unmarried mothers, not single mothers, that give us the coppers in their zakat tin, and somebody gave us £1,000 in Ramadan. So
I see.
People vary, and we've survived like that up to now, but it's...
it's probably difficult to be sustainable in that format, isn't it?
It's difficult to expand, I think.
Okay.
We have a growing waiting list. There's about 8 of us as clinicians, I suppose, and if we give a day a week each, something like that.
Okay.
But the waiting list is growing, and with more publicity, we expect more.
Which is a nice problem to have, but not an easy one to manage, I would imagine, because of the fact there's only 8 of you.
One of the nice things is, normally if you put 2 Muslims in a room, you've got fitna.
Yeah.
But in our case, we really feel there's a barakat in working together, and it's only when you work together that you really begin to expand and you see new ways of working, get new insights. So if we're having a ward round or a clinical meeting, we're looking at, the cull, we're looking at something Al-Ghazali makes a point of, the primary and secondary causation of events. So, we'd look at the immediate causes of something, like childhood sexual abuse or something. But we also bear in mind primary causation, which is why has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this condition.
Yeah.
And there's a very nice example that Al-Ghazali gives in the Alchemy of Happiness, when he describes a person who goes to the doctor because he's feeling down, he's lost appetite, lost pleasure in life, and the doctor says, you've got a case of melancholy, take this medicine. Like Ghazali says, but it doesn't occur to the doctor that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has so created that condition in that man that he turns back to me, because when you're depressed, sometimes you lose the taste for the dunya. And in that state, sometimes you make more spiritual progress than you would do in your ordinary state.
I see.
So we always consider that in making the diagnosis, is, that there's a meaning in everything that happens.
That's very, very interesting. Very interesting indeed, and refreshing, I would imagine, to our listeners to hear that such a service exists. Now, is this the first of its kind in the UK that you're aware of?
We think it is like this. There are beginning to get other groups of counsellors, psychologists together, but we think ours is the first to offer a complete sort of range of services. There's a sort of sister organisation to us in Lancashire called INIAD.
Okay.
And only recently I discovered it in the United States. There's something similar. There's 4 Khalil centres that essentially work on the same model of understanding psychology and provide the same therapies. Because the other thing is, we're very holistic, I suppose. So we use, going back to what you said about technique, yes, we use standard psychological techniques like cognitive behaviour therapy, for instance. But we also have access to good tip practitioners. So, there's quite a rich tradition in Unani tip for dealing with psychological state.
Right.
We might use ruqya, in a general way. I mean, the shifa in the Quran.
Yeah.
There's a particular benefit in the sunnah sports we find. So the archery, the swimming, the riding, particularly for some conditions.
That's very interesting.
One interesting hadith. So when people came back, I think it was the Battle of Uhud, might have been Badr, but coming back from a big battle, and obviously people exhausted and you could say traumatized.
Yeah.
And the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, or told the people to go and practice archery immediately. And there's something about the stretching of muscle in archery, about the way it forces you to keep in a very balanced position, and the release of the arrow that has quite deep therapeutic benefits. So
Subhanallah.
We use everything. You know, we make the diagnosis, and we can recommend people go to see a hakim, but
yeah,
they'd have to pay separately for that. But we do have good ones that we know. And the Khalil centers in the States are rather similar. So there's also a recognition of the importance of tib and diet and these things in conditions, and you're bearing all these factors in mind in making the diagnosis.
That's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Professor, can you tell me, you mentioned there's a broad range of services, but are there limitations as to what you can help people with, specifically alcohol or drug-related issues? Is that...
Yes, we chose not to deal with those. They're too difficult.
Right.
With the resources that we have. We can't deal with people in very disturbed states because, people are possibly dangerous, very paranoid, and in those sort of cases you really have to go to a conventional psychiatrist and mental health services.
Yeah.
And at the moment, we don't offer a service to people under the age of 18. It's because the models that we use for adults don't necessarily apply to children. For instance, the relationship between the nafs or the
I see. Yes.
And Carl, for instance. But we're working on that. We've just got a team together of people with experience in child psychology. So we're both on the models for treating childhood disorders, or understand them, because remember, sometimes a condition that we would see as being a disease in a way, mainstream society wouldn't, and vice versa.
Right.
There are conditions that we wouldn't see as a disease, like a state of spiritual ecstasy, for instance, or spiritual crisis, if you like.
Yeah.
So we're working on a model for how to understand childhood disorder and treat it, but also once you understand child development, the way the child develops, the way the nafs develop, and the akal, the intellect comes into play, of course this has very big implications for education.
I see.
And I think one of the things we've noticed is that very often typical madrasa education doesn't follow the sunnah. One thing is you should play until the age of 7. And we know this is important because we know that very crudely the sort of ability to do left brain hemisphere activities like reading, mathematics and so on, don't really kick in to about the age of 7. So the brain hasn't developed fully in most cases to deal with those things.
Right.
On the other hand, the creative side of the brain is active. So you want to pack those first 7 years in with as much creativity as possible.
Yes.
Because if you lose the window, you've lost it. And there's no point forcing children to learn to read and write before that age because the brain isn't really equipped to it. If we leave it till 6, 7, they pick up very quickly. So all you've done is you've lost vital years. So there's one little thing. There's very clear hadith on this that's very often not followed. And, Islam isn't a joke. If the Prophet, blessings be upon him, was given a clear hadith, we know it's sound. The Quran is a clear statement. There's a reason for it.
Absolutely, of course, absolutely. A quick question. We're running out of time, sadly, very quickly, which is a shame. But I did touch upon the fact that the attitude that there is within certain sections and certain pockets of Muslim communities towards mental health in terms of it being taboo and people always blaming it on the jinn or black magic and not actually seeking the help that's required. But what do you think needs to change in I suppose the hearts and minds of people in order for us all to see a positive wave of change in the attitude of our Muslim communities towards mental health? I mean, do you think it's services like yours that will play some part towards that?
Well, I think it is. That's our experience. So when you offer the service, and you say, look, we're not going to rubbish a view that it might be jinn or it might be black magic.
No.
In my experience, this is seldom the only factor, and some very often isn't. But we don't discount it.
No.
And if people have the confidence that they can go to a service and whatever they're fearing and thinking about is going to be addressed, and trust the person that's making, an understanding of what's going on, then people will come forward. And
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean that's my experience.
No, that's interesting. Just a quick question in terms of non-English speakers. I mean, do you have? Is this only a language that's delivered in English, or do you have many people that speak other languages?
No, we have therapists that can speak Urdu, Punjabi, Bengali,
fantastic,
Swahili, French. We haven't Farsi or any of the Pathan languages pushed to.
Right.
But we do have a fairly wide spread of languages.
No, clearly, that's fantastic to hear that. And I suppose another question, really, just so people get more
and Gujarati as well. We can do fairly
Gujarati. Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm going to mention the website again for our listeners. It's Ihsan, which is IHSAAN. .org.uk, so people can have a look and see exactly the extent of your services. Now, I know you're based in Bradford, but is the service only for people in that vicinity, or is this a national?
No,
okay,
we get people as far away as the Midlands.
Okay,
and certainly wider than Bradford in West Yorkshire.
Okay, good.
It's purely a logistic matter of how easily people can get up.
Yeah.
We prefer to offer face-to-face services, but we would, in circumstances, offer telephone or Skype. But we do know people in other parts of the country. There are people in London and other places that may not be in a coherent team in the way we have in Bradford, but we know them, we trust them,
right,
and we can refer people to them.
Oh, that's very good to know. And I'm assuming...
and just to mention, there's a very good telephone counselling organisation that's national called Inspirited Minds.
Oh, yes, very aware of those. Very aware.
And they're an excellent service.
They are, and I believe they have an event tomorrow in Luton, actually, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, which I was made aware of just today by a fellow presenter on Salam Radio. So, yeah, we're very aware of Inspirited Minds, and indeed they do fantastic work. Professor, thank you so much for your time this evening and for joining us here on Friday Night Prime. It's been intriguing and refreshing to hear that such a service exists, and I'm sure our listeners feel exactly the same way. We, of course, wish you all the best with it. Briefly, if you could end by telling us what the plans are for expansion. I know it's early days, but what is the vision for Ihsan, say, in 5 years' time?
Well, that we have a child service, that we've worked on that.
Yeah.
That we're doing much more teaching. We do some teaching, and we mentioned Cambridge Muslim College. We do local seminars. We'll probably do an online course in the autumn. And we're feeding into some courses at Zaim University in Istanbul, which is really taking the lead internationally in developing Islamic psychology. And I suppose to have, some enough money to pay for a proper coordinator, a business manager, and a wider, bigger service.
Inshallah. That sounds like a wonderful plan. Professor Rashid, again, thank you so much. Absolutely fascinating talking to you, and thank you again for your time.
Oh, it's very kind of you, and very good questions.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the compliment. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
That was wonderful Professor Rashid from Ihsan. Extremely insightful conversation, I felt, personally. I hope you feel the same, listeners, in terms of the background to the service and, more importantly, what they offer and how they're offering it. I mean, some of that was mind-blowing, quite frankly. There's just time to remind you all, not that you would need reminding, but I'm going to do this anyway, Sunday, the 29th of April, at the Gladstone Park Community Centre is a very, very exciting event for Peterborough. This is a Qawwali show, which is a tribute to Ustad Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan. This is a live performance by Chand Ali Khan, Qawwal and Party. There'll be Mushaira and Ghazals as well. Doors open 6 o'clock. This is Sunday. If you haven't already got your tickets, and shame on you if you haven't, because they've been on sale a long time, you should have them by now. But nevertheless, if you still need tickets, please contact Qasim on 07722 55 88884. That's 07722 55 88884. Tickets are only £10, and this is quite a unique event for Peterborough. It's going to be packed out, I think. The ticket sales have been going extremely well, and it will promises to be a very, very special night indeed. That's again doors opening at 6 at the Gladstone Park Community Centre, a tribute to Ustad Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan. Thank you all for listening. Friday Night Prime, it's good to be back after several weeks off, and we'll be with you for the next 2 weeks up until Ramadan. Have an amazing weekend, and hopefully see you at the Qawwali show, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. You're listening to Salam Radio, and it's now time for Isha Azan.